Hey yo, what is up FPG fam? Further here, and for today's video, I'm going to go ahead and give you my early thoughts and first impressions of LIN. She's released on the global side for Tower of Fantasy. I had the opportunity to use her. Now, I do apologize, this video is a little bit later than normal, and the reason being is because I wanted to test LIN in multiple different team comps. So for example, testing her with Frost, Flame, Physical, Volt, because she's able to be on each and every one of those teams. So I wanted to try her out on those teams and kind of get an overall thought of what she's bringing to the table and how she's performing. So that's why the video is a little bit later than usual. But nonetheless, I do hope you enjoy. And let me know in the comments down below if you do have LIN. How have you been enjoying her? How have you been using her? And what team comp are you maining with her? I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. And I'm going to give my overall thoughts. Once again, my first impressions on what I think about her. And I think she's great on the global side. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you my LIN at this time so you have a better understanding of what I'm working with personally. So I've been really testing her out on my Frost team because I do main Frost. That's the first team that I put her on, and that's the first team that I wanted to try her in because of the controversy around Frost, and once again because I main it. And I do have to say that I really enjoy LIN on the Frost team comp. Now, I have her at level 140. Luckily, I was able to get her all the way up to 140. And I only have A0. I did not get any advancements on LIN. So I've been testing her extensively just at A0. And I think this is really good because there are some people that are wondering if A0 LIN is good enough to be on the team comp to replace other simulacrums like Claudia or A6 Tsubasa. And I'm here to say that LIN is fantastic at A0, and this harkens back to what I've been saying about simulacras just in general. Is their core kit, is it synergistic, is it cohesive, does it work, is it balanced, is it strong enough on its own without needing advancements, and do advancements unlock more of the simulacrum? Do you get more out of the simulacrum when you unlock advancements in terms of really unlocking their potential? And I am proud to say and happy to say that A0 LIN is fantastic at A0, much like Saki, much like other characters like, for example, Ruby, and others that are just really great. Frigg is another example, that are really great at A0 and don't necessarily need advancements to get the most out of them, right? Obviously, advancements are always going to enhance a simulacrum and unlock more of their potential, whether it be damage or supporting capabilities, but at A0, LIN is one of those simulacrums that performs beautifully, and you don't necessarily need advancements, because if you do take a look at advancements, they really just buff her damage and her burst damage and her cooldowns and things of that nature. So you're able to maybe get smoother rotations and able to do more burst damage in general, but you don't necessarily need it in order for LIN to perform the way she wants to, which is buffing the team and, surprisingly enough, being able to do damage on her own, shield break, and charge the team as well. So I will say A0 LIN, fantastic. She performs beautifully. Now, in the Frost team comp, this is the team that I've been running with her, with Saki and Frigg, and I love this team. I think this team is incredibly fun to play, and I think it's very cohesive, and I think it's very smooth, the gameplay and transitions between these characters and weapons. What I really like about LIN the most, and this is what I don't feel enough people talk about, is that she's able to buff the team. That's a given, right? That's what she's known for. But what a lot of people I don't see talk about is the amount of damage that she's able to do on her own is actually really nice, but also nice even split between her shatter and charge, and them both being high, meaning that she's capable of shield breaking, albeit you're not using her necessarily for that, but she has the ability to shield break, which is great when you're waiting for cooldowns and you have her out. She's able to get the job done, but she's also able to charge the team really well. So not only do you have a character that can buff the team, but she's able to shield break, she can charge your weapons, she could do damage as well on her own if you need her to. So she's one of those simulacrums that can kind of do it all, and there's no real downside or detriment to having her out there while you're waiting for cooldowns to happen or while you're waiting for rotations to go through. She's one that you can leave out there and get the job done. But not only that, she has a lot of passive damage output, and specifically on this team with Saki, it can get pretty nutty. If you're in the DPS stance for Saki, you're in the excited flow, you have that sword flying around, and then when you do LIN's skill, you have those epiphyllums that are out there exploding. So now you have the sword flying around doing damage, the Epiphyllum out there doing damage and burst damage, and then you have Frigg where you put the Frost Domain down, that's doing damage while you're multi-slashing around and you're in Hyper Body if you have the 4K trait. It's just a very fun team comp that is able to do a lot of passive off-field damage while you're out there doing your main DPS damage, and that's where the burst comes in. And then if you have A1 Saki, you're able to do the skill multiple times. The rotation feels great. It's a very smooth, cohesive team, and it's very synergistic, and it works really well, and I have tons of fun with this team. So I do say that LIN benefits greatly being on the Frost team. Now I know people are going to ask me, well, if you have an A6 Tsubasa, do you need LIN or should you go for LIN? And this is what I will say about that on this specific topic, is that A6 Tsubasa, in my opinion, buffs the overall damage in terms of percentage more than LIN will. But what I will say is that I prefer A0 LIN over A6 Tsubasa because of the other intangibles, the other utility that she brings to the table that I don't feel Tsubasa does. And this might just be a personal preference, but I believe LIN just offers more utility wise, and with her intangibles within her kit, being able to do passive damage with the Epiphyllums, the Moonlight Realm, and her being able to do damage while also being able to shield break, while also being able to charge the team. She's like, if you take Claudia, who with her charge, and then you combine it with Cobalt with her shatter, that's where you get LIN, and then you also are able to do damage as well, and then you have the passive damage. So I prefer that over A6 Tsubasa personally, and I would prefer an A0 LIN over an A6 Tsubasa. Now, once again, to reiterate, because people have selective hearing and won't fully understand what I'm saying, is that A6 Tsubasa will buff your Frost team better than LIN will, in my opinion. But LIN, I believe, is a better fit for team rotation, passive burst damage, and just overall utility within her kit, just as a simulacrum herself. So I think I would prefer an A0 LIN over an A6 Tsubasa personally. But then it just comes down to preference, I think, on what you would prefer to have for your Frost team. But I think she's fantastic, and that's just my 2 cents on the matter. Now, for the Flame team, I think she operates really well in this team. I think she's a great replacement for either King or Cobalt. For me personally, I replaced Cobalt with her. I'm not a fan of Cobalt, but this could be because I only have her at A1. Obviously she's more beneficial at A5, A6, so if that's the case for you, then obviously you would be more benefit to having Cobalt in there and then probably replacing King. But I personally replace Cobalt and I have Ruby, Lin, King, and this team works out perfectly fine, right? It's good, it gets the job done. Do I think it's overwhelmingly great? No, I don't think it's overwhelmingly great, and I think the passive or the support buff that you get for Flame within the skill of Lin is not the greatest, and I wish it was better, but it is what it is. It gets the job done. In Volt, I think she's fantastic in the Volt team because you have Nemesis, Lin, and then Samir or Crow. There's just a lot of different variations that you can make, but you get the healing and the passive damage from Nemesis, and this probably goes back to the whole passive damage thing. It's just very important, and I think it's overlooked or not spoken about enough, is that you get the passive damage from Nemesis with the healing, and then you get the passive damage from Lin and being able to buff the Volt team and have, you know, all the benefits of that as well. And then you have Samir being able to bring her out and do a lot of damage. The only thing that you're lacking on is shield breaking at that point. But once again, Lin has the capacity to do it, just not the greatest, you know, in terms of if you look at specific shield breaking units. But she's able to get the job done and can probably fill that role for you for the time being, right, until other characters come out. But I think she's great in the Volt team and very beneficial there. And then the physical team, I think she slots in really nice, right, because there's not so much that you can do for physical right now. So you have Shiro, Claudia, and Lin, and I think that team just gets a boost just in general because it needs it and it's lacking. So in the physical team comp, she's fantastic, right? So I think Lin overall in all team comps is just a great unit. We already knew that, but it was to what extent on the global side, right? And to be quite honest with you, I'm pretty surprised with the Frost team. One thing I didn't take into consideration too much was that passive damage, and then pairing that with Saki and that sword flying around, right? Those are things that I didn't really initially think of, and it works out fantastic. And I love Lin in the Frost team, and I've replaced Claudia with Lin in this team, and it's just been working out really nice, just because once again of her intangibles, her utility, her kit, her shatter, her charge. It's just all really nice. So that's just my thoughts on that. And one other thing I did want to mention as well that I think a lot of people don't bring up or emphasize enough, I should say, is that extra dodge you get within the skill, and that is that little teleport that you receive when you're in that Moonlight realm. I think that's incredibly important, and once again, I don't think people emphasize that enough. It's just a utility that's in her kit that is there, and people don't realize how important it could be. It just gives you an extra dodge and gets you out of sticky situations and can really set you up for some success when it comes to repositioning you, so that way you can then maybe switch to your other weapons and do their skill cooldowns, and it just prevents you taking damage. It's just a really nice added benefit within her skill that is useful in certain situations, right? It's not overpowered by any means. I just don't see enough people talking about it, and it's very unique to Lin. And it's something that I enjoy, having that teleport pop out every, 10 seconds. And then, you know, if you have the Frost domain down, you can then switch to Frigg, and you can multi-slash around infinitely with Hyper Body or Hyper Armor. It's just really nice. It's really nice, and it works out really well. So my initial thoughts, my first impressions on Lin at A0 is that she's phenomenal. I think she's a fantastic Simulacrum, and if you're a Frost main and on the fence about whether you should get A0 Lin or not, if you have the means to be able to get her, I think it's going to be great for your Frost team, but also going to be beneficial for your secondary team. So for me, Flame is my secondary team. It's very beneficial there. So it's a great pickup, right? If you have A6 Tsubasa and you are content with her play and her kit and how she fits in the Frost team for you, and you don't feel the need to grab a Lin, then you don't have to. It's not necessary. You can get by with an A6 Tsubasa, or you can get by with an A1 Claudia. You don't necessarily have to have Lin. I don't think Lin is a necessity in the Frost team, but she is very nice, and I think she works out perfectly fine. And personally, once again, just to reiterate, I personally prefer A0 Lin over Tsubasa, but that's just my personal preference. For Flame team, she's going to be super beneficial. I think she's a great pickup. Volt team, I think she's a phenomenal pickup for you guys right now as well. It's super beneficial there. And physical, I think she's really great. And one that you can use, right, until Lyra comes out. But once again, for physical, it's a situation where you can probably skip Lin because it's not a necessity, and just save for Lyra. If you're free to play or light spender, that's my recommendation, kind of going back to my last video talking about physical. That would probably be more advantageous for you and the better route to go. Flame, same. Like, the thing is I don't think Lin is a necessity on any team. I'm gonna be honest, frank, and upfront. I don't think she's a necessity on any team, because I think there are other units that you can get by with or are comparable. Once again, A6 Tsubasa comparable, A1 Claudia comparable. I just think Lin brings more to the table, but it's not so much so that it's a necessity to have. I hope that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is that I prefer her in the Frost team, but I don't find her to be a necessity on the Frost team. I prefer her in the Flame team, but I don't find her to be a necessity in the Flame team. Meaning that for Frost, you can have Saki Frigg and save for Alice. For Flame, you can have Ruby and Cobalt or King and save for Annabella or Annabelle. For physical, you can have Claudia and Shiro and save for Lyra. These are the things that I'm speaking about. Volt, even Volt, you can have Nemesis and Samir or Crow and save for Tian Lang. These are the things that I'm speaking about on the global side specifically. I think Lin is fantastic, but I don't think she's necessarily a necessity, especially at A0, right? Anyways, guys, hopefully this video helps. I know I was all over the place, and hopefully this gives you a better idea of what you're going to do for your team and what you're going to be doing for your account. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I'll try and answer to the best of my ability, and if I'm not able to answer in the comments, maybe I'll do a video on it. But I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Remember to stand out, be different, have fun, go further beyond in everything that you do. My name is Cody, but you can call me Further. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.